What is up, guys? So I just wanted to come on YouTube live really quick. I'm in between right now the Patreon monthlies, but I want to hop on here for a few things. One, I know that some of my videos, the audio has not been up to par, so I'm fixing that. I think it's just because of my streaming service, my streaming device, and so I'm just trying to fix that right now. And I might just go back to recording my videos the old way so the audio is better. But two, let's talk about something going on in the collective right now. I want everybody to kind of be aware of it because it came up in my Patreon reading I just did too. And so I know it's not like just for one little pocket, you know. Hello, my dear. I was doing the Patreon Gemini monthly, and I've heard this in a few of the weeklies for this past week, as well as we go into April, as we go into this new moon. Hello, my dear. And fear mongering just keeps coming up. Okay, so fear mongering. Let's define it, right? Let's define it. Fear mongering. The action of deliberately arousing public fear or alarm about a particular issue. Hello, Natalie. Right? Thanks, Lex. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been doing the monthlies live, so they've been fun. So just be mindful, and I'm going to be mindful too of even the way that I'm wording things, because I think fear mongering keeps coming up. One, because the collective's really sensitive intuitively right now, like super sensitive to what's going on. Two, we also just don't want to project. I don't even want to use the word project because it's used all the damn time. And it's like something that's a whole nother thing. I'll talk about that in a second. But just being mindful of your words, like instead of saying like challenges, like, oh, you're going to have a lot of challenges this week, you know, or you're going to have a lot of challenges this month. Like that's, you know, instilling a kind of fear. And say, instead you could choose to say like, we're given the opportunity to grow and evolve right now. You know, it's like, I know people are going to be like, oh, fucking semantics, right? But the reality of the situation is that when we as a collective are integrating a lot of higher consciousness energy, going through really big shifts, especially with Neptune home in Pisces. There's with Neptune and Pisces, this distortion, this illusion is really going to be passed around in the collective. And again, not trying to like fear monger. It's just like the positive of Pisces, of Neptune and Pisces, is that our intuition's peaked. And so if you shift from your ego, right, where fear, insecurities, limiting beliefs are, you come back to your authentic self, the physical body, either through breath work or exercise or affirmations, whatever it is that brings you back to a state of peace and balance, that's going to help you shift into your authentic self. And from there, you're going to realize that the things that are instilling fear into the collective are more so a projection of that individual's struggles right now that they might be struggling to see. Okay. So just be mindful of that. I'm just going to stop that there. Because I've seen a lot of it in comments. I've seen like people trying to say things towards me that's like fear mongering or triggering. And if you were to just shift and choose to be like, you know what, actually, I'm grateful I even have a job. Like, I'm grateful I can do these things. I'm grateful that I have the time and space to do this. Yeah, I was too. I had horrible anxiety and fear. It was probably like a week or so ago. And it's something that's moving like a wave through the collective right now. And it's very evident in a lot of readings. And my best advice I could give you is because this is what happened. Like, I thought I really wanted to be around my partner because that was what would make me feel safe, is like having someone who I felt safe around. I realized that what it was is I was really overly stimulated. So maybe taking a walk by yourself or going to the gym by yourself or just taking some time to be with you and realize that you are safe in your own body, right? You are safe in your body. You're safe where you are right now. We don't know what's going to unfold, but that's okay, because right now in this moment, you have everything you need, right? Everything that you need. It might not be everything you want, but as long as your needs are being met, like food in your fridge, right? You can navigate where you need to go for work. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, things are going to get better going into April. They are going to get better going into April. And April is the first sign in the zodiac, right? So this is a really good time to allow yourself the time and space to come back to you. And especially after these last few weeks when there's been a lot of like upheavals and whatnot, I know that the collective might be struggling with that. And for me personally, what helps is more so focusing on right now in this moment. Because the more that I know for me, being a Capricorn rising and an air sign sun, I'm a Libra sun, and I'm dramatic as hell with a Leo moon. But I know I have a tendency to overthink or replay arguments or fights or fallouts that have happened in my head. And I remind myself that I'm here right now. I'm not in that time anymore. I'm not in that conversation anymore. I'm not in that argument anymore. Because when you replay those situations in your mind, you're putting your nervous system back through that experience all over again. Okay. And it's just telling yourself, you know what? I deserve peace. I deserve peace. I deserve to be here in my body, and everything's going to work out for my highest good. You know, it's a practice. This took me, and I know it's taken other people a very short amount of time. For me personally, this was a struggle because I had a very pessimistic mindset for a very long time. And over time, when you start to reframe your brain, teach your brain to be more of an observer than a reactor, it's really going to help you to stay calm, right? To really stay calm. So if you're like me and you like criticism and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect. And if I'm not perfect, oh my gosh, like the world's ending, you know, like I was actually just talking about this with one of my patrons today. It's actually Lex. Hey, Lex. This idea of like wanting to be this overachiever and like wanting to show the best you to the world, right? And all these things. And it's the need to have that compassion with yourself that it's the process. In the process, you are going to learn, right? In the process, you're going to evolve. And it's in that process that you need to have compassion with yourself because it's through those experiences / challenges, those opportunities to learn is really what a challenge is, right? That you're going to grow, that you're going to evolve, right? So I've talked about this one before too, and it's coming up again. We're going to have a lot of old things coming up right now around this time because we're kind of getting ready to go into eclipse season at the end of April. End of April, April 29th is when eclipse season is going to start. So just be mindful of that. That from now up until that time is an incredible time to manifest, to really sit with yourself, to ground yourself, to really, if you're really starting to get into spirituality, like now's really the time to like dive into it. Like if you have this intuitive nudge to do something, go ahead and start it. Like don't be scared of posting reels on Instagram or like starting your channel or doing things of that nature right now. Like express yourself. And we're that in the collective, there's this really, myself included, like this huge fear of judgment going on right now because we're in the new. So everybody's stepping into these new ways of being, these new schools, these new jobs, these new homes, these new relationships. And so this fear of judgment is going on. It's like there's this overall like fear mongering energy. And so if you're watching things that are triggering that in you, don't watch it. Censor yourself. It's okay. Because what's true for you is your reality. Is your now granted, do as we integrate our shadow, we integrate our own distortions and illusions and like perspectives of things that are not true, that are actually rooted in the ego that's trying to protect us. And they might be defense mechanisms that are used in excess and in turn not working to your benefit. So I can't say that your reality is like 100% true because I know through my journey, the way that I perceived things at times and the way that I communicated with people at times when I was going through like my darkest stage, I realized like I had a lot of distortion in my mind that I had to reintegrate. And like, for example, like victim mentality is really going to be big right now. And so just be mindful, like Am I really a victim, or am I looking at somebody who is mirroring back to me a similar pain that they have in another form? You know, because we're all equal. We're all on our own path. Nobody's better than the other person. I really don't care if you think that you're embodying like an empress or a high priestess or any of this, because at the end of the day, at some point in your path, you were a page, you were a knight, you were a queen, right? And you went on your amazing personal journey, as is the person that you might be judging for being in a place that you once were, or a place that you are about to be, right? So just be mindful of that right now. Show a lot of compassion, and I wouldn't necessarily say detachment, but being a little bit more observing. Hello, Lisa. A little bit more observing of what's going on around you. Okay, how do we control overthinking? I'm always in my head imagining the worst. Ooh, girl, Libra Sun gang. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Virgo rising. Yeah, I got my Venus in Virgo. So Venus and Virgo, Virgo rising. Kind of similar. And then the Sag moon. Oh, that's a cool moon placement. Overthinking, I found, helped a lot when I brought myself back to the physical body. When you allow your mind to travel a lot, when you allow yourself to get carried away in your thoughts or like assumptions or feelings, like how many times have you said, well, I'm angry, and not really sat and asked yourself, well, what's my anger really rooted in, right? Because anger is the secondary emotion. And most of the time, the anger is rooted in shame, disappointment, hurt, betrayal, right? It's rooted in other primary emotions or feelings or experiences. And we like to slap anger on it because anger allows us to throw up our brick wall and kind of push things away. Okay. And so moving into this state of like not getting overwhelmed, I know for me, I always move my body with breath, right? Breath and movement bring me back, because breath, one, it's life, but also breath for me is a very visual thing. Like if I breathe in air through my nose, like for some reason, I always visualize white light going through my crown and like looping to the back of my head, down the front, and all the way down like my chakra system. Um, and I'll always like raise my arms up and do it and bring them back down through heart center. And if that's not something that you're used to doing, I know at first I felt like really silly doing those things because they were different. They were outside my comfort zone. But that's the thing. Like right now is a great time to do things that you might think, well, that's not me. That's not something I want to do or take part in. Explore, like allow that childlike nature to come out, especially in Aries season when we're in this fire energy, because it's going to help ignite that inner child, that inner passion to come back out for you. But that's what helps me with when I get overwhelmed, is going on a walk and really taking deep breaths, like really like spreading my arms out, because this opens the heart space. Like if you're a patron, like there's plenty of times like I'll do readings and like I just habitually like sit with my arms crossed, and I'll literally hear like uncross your arms, because you're creating a block in your heart space, in your heart center where you receive, right? So when I walk, like I remind myself, like, it doesn't matter what people think of me. Like if this makes me feel better, if this brings me peace, I'm going to walk with my arms out on the side of the road and like let people look at me and wonder what I'm doing. That's fine. But it's getting to that place of just like allowing yourself to unfold. You need to find what allows you to unfold that stress, that overwhelm. What is it for you? For a long time, it was poetry. For a long time, it was breath work, yoga, exercise. Then I needed something more calming. And that's when I got into like really like slow moving yoga and slow breath and a lot of mindfulness, because that is what really, it helped regulate my nervous system. Because if you are a close friend or family, you know that I've had horrible anxiety in the past, but not so much anymore. Jacktual, that's a cool little name. Aquarius Sun, Gemini Moon, Aquarius. Oh, a lot of Aquarius, and we have Saturn in Aquarius right now. Takes work to control the intent. Yep, but so possible with intent to find the tools and patience. Yeah, exactly. Like what I was just saying. Like you need to find the tools, basically, that work for you. That's a great way to put it. I'm Virgo Sun and have been feeling exactly like this for a while now. Breathing really helps to slow down. Yes. Yeah. And if you're new to meditation and you're like, oh my gosh, I sat here for 5 minutes and nothing's happening, it takes on average like 20 to 30 minutes for someone to really get into a meditative state. So don't be hard on yourself. Like the critical energy in the collective right now is like, remember to have compassion with yourself and walk away from things when you need to breathe a little, right? It's okay to like, how do I want to put this? Okay, we're not going to go there because that's just opening up a whole can of worms. We're just not going to go there right now. Well, we'll do it, and I'll talk about that in a few weeks when the collective's kind of like chilled out a little bit. Aquarius and Mercury too send help. Yeah, Aquarius is a fun sign though. It's a really fun sign. Aquarius is very freeing. Yeah, I have to be mindful of that all the time. The shoulders, like sitting, like posture is a really big thing. So on my chair, I have a blanket that's like rolled up underneath my butt bones, as you'd call it in the yoga world. And that helps your spine stay a little bit more erect, and it helps your posture and creates more vertebral space. So if you want to work on breath work more, that's a really good way to at least sit. I also have one of these bad boys. I love this. I got this on Amazon. And it is Crystal Cove collection from Brentwood Home, but it's my little yoga bean bag. I forget what it's called right now, but absolutely amazing. I sit on this just on the edge of it, like when I meditate, and it really helps my back and my spine, and it makes like sitting in a meditative like posture. And by the way, like this is root chakra. I just keep doing that because like there's a lot of root energy going on in the collective right now, like wanting to feel safe, and that's just what I've been doing a lot when I meditate lately. So it's not like a stereotype thing. Like there's different mudras, right? Like this is a feminine mudra. It's really good for opening up your sacral, working with your feminine energy, blah blah blah. But yeah, I'd highly recommend like putting something beneath you if you find it even physically uncomfortable to sit in that state for a long time. Autumn, you dang right you do. It used to take me a good 20 minutes before I would really relax and connect. Now a year later, I connect right away. Don't stop meditating. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Like Alexa and I talk on a daily basis almost about what we've meditated about. Like, hey, what'd you see in your meditation today? Oh, I saw this. What did you see? Because soon enough, you're going to, like today we were talking about Akashic Records. Like you're eventually going to get to this place where you're going to know the difference in your energy. You're going to know like, okay, this is me now. This is me in my past life. This is an old version of myself. Like, oh, this is rooted in Lemuria or Atlantis, or this person's like, this energy felt like a guide, or this is like a sign to, you're going to become so aware of how little of our brain we actually use right now in this world, that the more you meditate, you're going to start utilizing this amazing machinery that's right inside your freaking head. And it's going to allow you to see and experience awesome things and get to know yourself and build a really intimate connection with yourself. That's awesome. It's nice to share meditation experiences to help me understand mine more. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a two-way street. Yeah, because typically, like when you go on a path and you build like your own little soul tribe, especially in regards to like the spiritual community, you're gonna find people that. So, like for instance, if you share meditation with a friend and vice versa, they're gonna be like, "It's weird. I had something similar just a few months ago," and it's gonna start unraveling, and like the pieces come together of like what it meant, or the lessons your souls are meant to teach each other are gonna start to unravel in that relationship, because you're sharing a very higher state of consciousness and intimate side of yourself. Aquarius with Virgo rising and Taurus moon. Aquarius sun, Virgo rising, Taurus moon. You're probably having a fun time right now. That was sarcasm. Sorry. Learning to observe and meditate. These tools help so much. Yeah. I feel like Aquarius and Capricorn right now are really going to be going through it, because especially if you're like around like 27, 28 and years old and you're a Capricorn, like myself, you're going through your Saturn return. And on top of that, Aquarius has Saturn in it, and Saturn is a planet of maturity, right? So it's going to create constriction and restriction in certain areas of your life to kind of force you into new modes of action and new ways of seeing and viewing things. And that's actually like That's actually a very beneficial aspect. Thank you, my dear. Of Saturn. I appreciate that. That made me feel good because right before this video I changed because I felt like I looked so poopy today. That's so funny. But yeah, I've been going through my Saturn return this last year, and I definitely can see the parts of my life that it was trying to force me to act in a more mature way or a more stable long-term way, because Saturn's ruled by Capricorn, right? Capricorn's the oldest earth sign, and that's why to me as a reader the 10 of Pentacles is Capricorn energy, because Capricorn to me is like the father, not just in tarot. It just has this very like paternal, very providing, and I want to feel safe and secure at all times. I want to always have my ducks in a row. Things must be prepared for the future. I'm very loyal to all the things that I care for, but don't betray me. It's a very like, I have a fine line of what's right and what's wrong, but also wants that stability, right? And wants to share that stability. And Saturn's going to teach you the balance of that within self and the balance of that in your external life. And I really like Saturn. I think Saturn's really cool. It makes for a lot of lessons. It does. It makes for a lot of lessons. So yeah, just be patient with yourself right now. And be patient with the people around you. And listen to your intuition. Don't try your hardest to learn to decipher between the intuition and the ego, right? Because when we start to fall into our ego, at times we might think that, yeah, I'm going to send that message right now, right? Or I'm going to do this right now, when really we're not sitting in who we really are. And just remind yourself not to give your amazing divine personal power to another person or another situation, right? Because you can't control another person or another situation. You can only control yourself. So by working through that compassion and that kindness and that love and that understanding of like, okay, I see that this person's hurting. And when someone's hurting, sometimes in my experience, I'm only going to say on my experience, because obviously I can't speak for the whole world, you know, but in my experience, when someone's hurting or someone's angry or they're sitting in their ego, I feel that they are not listening to what is actually occurring right then, you know, myself included. Like, I know when I'm upset, like my brain's like thinking of everything else going on. And like, if someone's talking to me, I'm just like, I'm kind of hearing you, but I'm not fully aware, you know, I'm not fully present, because you're shifted into the trauma body. You're shifted into this, whatever trauma response you have, like fight or flight or fawn, whatever it is. And just be mindful of that right now, that it's not our job to fix other people. It's not our job to fix other people. What it is our job to do is to take accountability for the parts of ourselves that we want to, I don't want to say heal, but we want to change. Because heals like saying that something's wrong with you, and nothing's wrong with you, because you were made exactly how you were supposed to be made in this life, right? And so you're choosing to change the parts of you that you choose to change, to benefit yourself and to align with the part of you and the version of you that is most authentic, right? Semantics, man, semantics. I'm not gonna lie, like if you're planning on getting into social media of any sort, like that's like the biggest downfall. Like, people will nitpick about every freaking word, you know. Looking for the right chick. My past 40 exes said I was too icy. Are you icy? Your name has icy in it. So, I don't know. It seems pretty cohesive right now. Okay. But that was another thing actually that I talked about today, was the vulnerability, right? So when people say that I can't get close to people, it's just not something that I can do. The reality of it is, it's something they're choosing not to do, because we are all capable of doing all things that we set our mind to. They're choosing not to set that, right? They're choosing not to go out and change that. And it's time to see that. You can't force that change in them, just like you can't force a change of any sort in anybody else. We can influence one another's path, but at the end of the day, that person's actions and words and emotions are on them, right? Right. Okay. That's my tangent. That's pretty much it. That's all I got for you. I just got done with that reading and I was like, we should really talk about like this whole fear mongering thing, right? Just don't allow people to make you think that things are crazy, even if that people is yourself. Okay. Guilty as charged, right? I did that to myself yesterday, actually. I was like thinking all these crazy things about my relationship, and my relationship's perfectly fine. And I was like, why am I having all these thoughts? And like 2 seconds later, he texted me and he was like, I love you so much. And I was like, what is going on in my head right now? I was like, the fear mongering. The fear mongering is getting me. It's infectious. Oh, wow. Never mind. We're fine. Everything's great. So, like, that's why I say what I said about the ego and learning to discern between your ego and your intuition. Because just because your ego is telling you, like, oh, I'm scared or I'm angry, are you really? Or is that your ego's way of protecting you from being vulnerable, from really expressing how you really feel? Because usually that's what it is. And so a lot of times, like, I did this for a really long time, and I learned this in my relationship that I'm currently in. Because he would say to me all the time, just because you feel it doesn't mean that it's right. Just because you have that emotion doesn't mean that it's valid. And like, I grew up hearing like, your emotions are always valid and nobody can make you feel that your feelings don't matter. Well, what if my feelings are fucking wrong? Like, what if I feel some way about about like a situation or a relationship, and it's because the lens I'm seeing it through is like through a victim lens, or through this, like, I don't know. I can't think of another lens, to be honest with you. But it's kind of like not taking accountability for your side of things, right? And that's when you just got to think, like, is what I'm feeling like really what I'm feeling right now? Or is this just a part of my ego that is triggered because it experienced something similar to this in the past, and it doesn't know any other way how to protect me other than to make me think that I'm scared, make me think that I'm angry, make me think that I should shut down, or make me put this person in a box or push them away, right? Right? Fear mongering. Right. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate it. But you guys have any other questions? Because I'm going to meditate a little bit, and then I got to get ready for my Patreon New Moon in Aries live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join Patreon, go ahead, check that out. Patreon always charges on the first of the month, though. So if you want to join Patreon, maybe join in like a few days, because I can't control their billing. So if you join now, it's kind of pointless because you're going to be billed again in just a few days. So just yeah, Autumn, don't forget. Gosh, you got to be there. Got to be there, be square. I wish Patreon had, like, Lex and I were talking about this because she said that too, that the notifications, like, we're not just email, like the push notifications. I wish I could set reminders on them, so I could remind you all about things. Distorted thinking. Yes. Jenna. Yes. I'm so glad to see you. Hello. It's funny because, like, I'll see people like pop up in the live chats and I'll be like, hey, I saw you on my website, because my website like sends me push notifications just like any app would, like, hey, you have a visitor from Sweden. Hey, you have a visitor from this person. So if someone like has an account on my website, like their name pops up on my phone. Mindfulness is active awareness of your current state, the present, the current situation. At least that's what I would take it as. Like, I'm not a freaking like PhD in psychology kind of person. I'm psychology informed, as people like to say it. The people who were close to getting their degrees and just didn't do it because they transferred colleges. I just finished my BA in biology. I was a dual science major. I was minoring in psych. And I went from a private college to a public college, and it got rid of almost my entire minor. And I was like, but yeah, it was one class away. It's one class away. It was kind of poopy, but I've taken other courses since then, and I love psychology. I do. I think psychology and spirituality overlapped very well. Mindfulness. Mindfulness. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Let's see. The direct, a quality or state of being conscious or aware of something, a mental state achieved by focusing on one's awareness on the present moment. Wow. I was pretty dead on with that. I'm very proud of myself. That's funny. Um, Hello, my dear. And yeah, the present, being present. And you're going to feel a difference when you're really present, like when you're not allowing your head to go elsewhere. Like right now, I'm really present and I just feel like I could fall asleep because I'm just like so chill about it. Like things are fine. And like you're always gonna have that voice in your head that's like, things aren't fine. Like things could go this way and things can go that way. Hello. Oh, that's so cool. I want to go to France. I want to go to France so bad. I want to go to a lot of places. I have a travel bug crawled so far up my ass right now, doesn't even know where else to go. And I want to travel all over the world. I do. I was even talking to my honey about getting why do you think a lot of people are quick to use words like boundaries, triggers, and trauma without much enlightenment? Okay, so when you say much enlightenment, I'm just going to ask you to clarify. Hello, Catherine, by the way. Because I actually had a thought today. So it's funny that you're saying this because I was thinking about a situation that was going on in my life with someone who's very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable. And my boyfriend and I were actually talking about this just the other night because he had a situation with somebody else. And it's like knowledge is wisdom. I mean, knowledge is power. That phrase is not accurate in my opinion. Knowledge is wisdom, and the wisdom to use that knowledge wisely is power, right? Because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're using it just freaking throwing it out here and there, you're not going to be able to apply it properly, right? Knowing the time and the place and the form of how to apply that knowledge, being wise with your knowledge, being knowledgeable about the things that you're knowledgeable on is what I think is most beneficial to the collective. And I think that judgment has a lot to do why people throw around the knowledgeable dick contest all the time. Like, oh, I know all these things and I know all of these things. So I'm the most powerful in the room. Because sometimes we go in a room and the most silent person is the most powerful, you know? And I think that if we're speaking in regards to tarot readers on YouTube, I don't really watch tarot anymore on YouTube, honestly. I do a lot of readings, and I find that the only time I really need to pull cards are like anytime I've tried to watch a reading lately, I just like, I don't know. My intuition's just like, no, I'm just not in the place where I need it anymore, you know? And eventually you're going to get there too. I think that it's kind of like a wave of wanting to explore forms of spirituality, and then it catalyzes whatever journey you're supposed to go on for yourself. And so for me, I used to be really addicted to tarot, and then I got into reading tarot, and I learned how to read tarot for myself. And for those who say you can't read tarot on yourself, you can. You need to learn how to discern between your ego and your intuition and know when you're shifted in your authentic self and in your ego. Because if you're doing an ego read, you're not going to be able to read for yourself. But if you're in your authentic self and fully open and receptive, then yes, you can definitely read for yourself. That's just my opinion and it's my experience. Now, with people saying boundaries triggers trauma without much enlightenment or education, I guess, is what you mean by it. I don't know. Please clarify if you can. I think that's just like the dick contest, you know, like people jumping onto the bandwagon of what is being spoken about now, right? Because in the collective, we have a merge of like psychology and spirituality coming. We do. And so people are getting into like boundaries, triggers, trauma, narcissism, codependency, all these things, all these labels. all these labels, right? And maybe a way out of very uncomfortable situations. I had a couple friends, the same sex couple I mentioned. I wish their toddler daughter experienced traveling or seeing the beauty. I love traveling, but they got defensive. And, whatever they got defensive about, that's within them, That's within them. It's within them. And at the same time, they also, because people are going to be like, well, those are their kids. And, you shouldn't be saying blah, blah, blah. Because we all know those people exist, right? But at the same time, it's kind of like, I was just sharing an experience. I wasn't trying to poop on your parade. Do whatever you want with your kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least that's how I am, like, let's just speak my mind. I'd like to travel. That's all. When people get defensive, judgmental, reactive, it has a lot more to do with themselves than it has to do with us. But we also, also need to be aware that it's a mirror. It is a mirror. So even though that reaction was rooted in them, it is showing you something within yourself too. It's always a two-way street. In my opinion, it is. Like this idea that one person's always right, one person's always wrong. And maybe that's just the Libra in me. I just kind of think that both people always play a part, and it's the end of it. Because hurt people, right? That's it. Hurt people. And so if you're hurt and they're hurt and you're having a conversation while you're hurt, it's not really going to work out. You're going to go in circles. And so if you wonder, like, why do I always go through this dynamic with my sibling or my parent or my romantic partner? Are you having these conversations while you're hurting? But they snapped at me about respecting boundaries and didn't get why I snapped back. Yeah, this hurt people. There's hurt people and hurt people. The snapping, right? Anger. It's just like, okay. I mentioned traveling lots of times. Yes, a mirror. Yeah, it's just a mirror. And so it's something within them, but it's also something within the dynamic. And it's just understanding that. And maybe it's just one day, I want to do it now. I'd honestly, like when it comes to like confrontational, when it comes to confronting somebody right now, I personally would wait a week or so for this new moon energy to kind of like kick in and pass. And I wouldn't try to initiate. I personally wouldn't dive into any conversations to like resolve things right now. I'd give things some time to mellow out, and that's what I felt for people close to me who've asked me. It's what I felt for the collective. I think that towards the middle of April is going to be a better time for things to clean up a bit. Yeah, clean up a bit, because right now it's a little murky. It's a little fucking dirty. I guess that would be their shadow getting triggered, and it would be yours getting triggered by not letting the fact be enough of an explanation. It's always, yeah, it's just a mirror. It's the mirror, right? Whatever labels, right? Triggered, getting triggered back, mirroring, right? Pushing each other's buttons, ping-ponging. There's so many different ways to say it. But at the end of the day, it's just nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Both need to just accept what you're feeling, think about what you're feeling, then kindly ask one day, hey, can you explain to me why that upset you, just so I can understand and maybe not do it again in the future, and be like, okay, cool. How do you suggest, or how have you connected with people who use the words without depth? I kind of just look at them, I was thinking the kind of person that I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just like, unless they're asking me a question, I'm just going to sit there and be like, like, now my other half, on the other hand, he is very transparent. That is not somebody you want to ask a question if you ain't ready for the truth, let me tell you. So if you ask him something, or if you try to act knowledgeable on something and you're really not that knowledgeable on it, that is somebody who's going to call you on your shit really quick. The whole thought, I'd just be like, that made no sense. That's not true. That's not the reality of the situation. that is what it's like. He's the sweetest man on the planet, but that is what it's like. Meanwhile, I will sit there and in my head, I just have this whole dialogue like, do they know what they're talking about right now? Like, should I? No, I'll just let them go. Maybe I should like tiptoe around it because I do not like conflict. I'm not a conflict person. Um, he's a Cancer. He's a Cancer sun, and he's a Virgo rising. So he's a Cancer Gemini cusp though. So he's very smart, very creative, likes to dabble in a little bit of everything. He's like a walking encyclopedia. We can't walk on eggshells or landmines that have to be healed, especially with relationships within ourselves and others. So it is what it is. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. He's a smart cookie. He's a smart cookie. An emotional perfectionist. He's helped me perfect my emotions, that's for sure. Like, because I'm a Capricorn rising and I'm a Leo moon, so I'm really dramatic, but I could also be really, I disassociate when I'm upset. Like if my trauma body's triggered, I disassociate. Like I will. Oh, that's awesome, Catherine. Yeah, that's awesome. So disassociating, it's kind of like you're physically there, but like you mentally just like check the fuck out. And that's honestly like if conflict comes up, that's how I am. I'm like, nope, brain shut off. You lost me. Not indulging in it. Like I just kind of shut down or I fight or flight. I either leave or you're going to get me angry. And that was like a big, issue when we first started, and he helped me learn a lot about my own emotional state, and that's why it came into my awareness, so give me 2 seconds. But yeah. Okay. I'm Virgo, partner's Leo, and I like Leos. I think Leos are a lot of fun. I have a lot of like good partnerships with Leos, and Leos and I always get along really well. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Very stable and loyal. Yes. Very stable. Cancer rising, Virgo moon, I can relate. Yeah. Cancer rising, I think, would be really, really nice. Let me see. Did I miss any? Hold on. Okay. Even when the earth shakes, we have to be grounded because boundaries can be broken. I don't know if I agree with that. I think our boundaries are only broken when we allow people to break them. Granted, we can't control another person's actions. So if you're saying like boundaries, or are you talking about expectations, right? Like if you have a expectation in your relationship that your partner is always going to be home at a certain time at night and you don't want them coming home at 3 in the morning, and then they come home at 3 in the morning, is that breaking a boundary or is it breaking an expectation? Because they're an individual, and they're free and they can make their own choices and decisions. And that's more of like a moral concept in regards to respecting their partner and just like being home at a certain time. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where semantics, like my honey and I, we have a friend who's really, I've talked about him a few times on Patreon, who's really, really into spirituality. Like we talk about Christ consciousness, and he works with disabled vets and helps them basically build their brain back, basically through different substances to help the black matter that's accumulated in their brain from trauma, basically come back to life so their brain can function normally again, and it will help them with their PTSD. And he first did the trial on himself. And 3 years later, he has no black matter left in his brain. It's absolutely incredible. And no PTSD or anything. And he's done 8 tours. He's a vet too. Both of them are. And so him and I, we were talking about expectations, right? Expectations and allowing someone to be free as an individual, right? And I forgot where I was going with this because I started thinking about like, they're just funny. They're funny. They're just funny together. Even when the earth shakes, we have to be boundaries broken, expectations. Yeah, because expectations aren't healthy, right? Expectations aren't healthy. And we can't really put expectations on our partners or on our relationships because people are just going to be disappointed, right? Granted, we're human and it's going to happen, right? Guilty as charged. But I'm sitting here playing with a string from the blanket I'm sitting on, by the way. And trauma-informed care. Self-respect to others. Yes, I understand. Trauma-informed care. What do you mean by trauma-informed care? Did that just pop into my chat at the wrong time? Like my chat can be delayed sometimes. Let me see. Hey, I was just thinking about you today. Hey, Kelly. I feel like I haven't seen you in a chat in a really long time. Did you change your picture on YouTube? I feel like your picture is different. Did you update it? You trying to look fancy? You trying to be fancy? Or they're just much smaller on here now because things look like super small. Super small. I wish this would let me. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay. The veteran story, trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed care. The veteran story. Oh, how he was doing work with vets and their brains and all that stuff. Kind of. It's more so I'm not going to get into it because it's just a lot. Yes, I went brunette. I was blonde, and it has been a while. Yeah, I was about to say, like, your photo looked like way different. I was like, is this the Kelly that I'm thinking about right now? I was like, did you change your photo? I was gonna be like, this is gonna be really awkward if it's the wrong Kelly, but I was pretty sure it was you. Safety, empowerment, and healing is utilized in trauma-informed. Yeah, it's not really trauma-informed care. What he does, so much to talk about. He doesn't do anything in regards to like psychology or being like somebody's therapist. It's not like that at all. So they'd get their trauma-informed care from the VA if they were to need it. His was all spiritual. It was all spiritual. It was him going on adventures and volunteering around the world and helping find sex traffickers and creating these certain doses of mushrooms to basically help people microdose properly in a safe, controlled lab environment so they can heal the black matter in their brain, right? And then they would go to whatever therapy they have outside of that. Like he's not associated with, he's got a depth of understanding and experience to put into practice. Well, of course, yeah. Yeah. But I thought you were asking if it was trauma-informed care, and that's what I'm saying. Like, technically, no. No. Because the kind of sessions he has is walking people into meditations, like real deep spiritual, like he does Reiki, like things like that. Like he's very into the same exact things that we do here, like Christ consciousness. Like you're not going to go to a therapist and be like, hey, let's take you to Christ consciousness. Let's walk you through a sensory deprivation so you no longer have to deal with blue light and your eyes can start to integrate into infrared over 3 or 4 days, and you'll achieve Christ consciousness because you've gone through sensory deprivation. And now you can go through a Kundalini awakening, right? You're not going to go to a freaking psychologist and do that shit. So I thought it was funny. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, lots of different stuff there. That reminds me of something. The whole schooling, professional work don't measure up to spiritual personal experience, like things like that. I saw somebody post on, and this is just my opinion, disclosure, this is my opinion, and I'm not going to argue my opinion because it's my opinion, and you can have your own opinion, and that's fan-titty-tastic, okay? Cool. Anyway, I saw this chick post a video about like what it means to be a spiritual like mentor or just a mentor in general. Like, well, it's a red flag if they don't have a certification. So you're telling me that people could go to a shaman in the woods and get certified by a shaman in the woods without a certification, but I need a certification to tell you that I can do these things. The purpose of a certification, let me tell you, this little piece of paper is just to make people feel comfortable. That's all it is. It's because society has become so attached to the need to have this like validation, like, oh, you're knowledgeable enough. Way back when, people didn't have freaking certifications. They were like, yeah, my grandfather was a shaman and my dad was. Now I am. And I do a lot of shamanic journeying and I work with a lot of druid things and, paganism and all this other jazz, herbalism, right? I'm not saying not having a certification is good or bad. I'm not saying that at all. Like, because I'm a certified Reiki practitioner, I have a degree in biology, I'm working on my yoga certification, like obviously I use certifications because they just work for business, man. Like, because people want to see that piece of paper. They want to know that they're safe and that they're comfortable with you. But regardless of this yoga certification, I could have bought these books, read these books, and studied this until I felt knowledgeable enough where I felt safe enough to pass on this knowledge to another individual. But instead, I have to go to another person who has the shiny piece of paper, who studied the same things, to then dictate whether or not I'm knowledgeable enough after studying the things that they've studied. It's just kind of like a dick contest cycle. Are you up to par with my knowledge? Like, okay, I can go sit in the woods forever, practice some breath work and work with all these different mudras. Like there's so many people in the spiritual community who I've met who have so much more knowledge on things than some of the people who I know with certifications. And I'm like, I'd much rather go to homie without the certification and talk to you because I feel like you have a lot of experience with it. I feel like you're not just reading information and regurgitating it into the collective. I feel that you were drawn to this because you have a passion for it, not just because it can make you money, right? And so in turn, you really invested yourself in it, right? Exactly. And that's kind of the thing, because it was just 2 or 3 weeks ago. My Reiki practitioner is also a shaman, and I was about to start an apprenticeship under her. And I just felt within me that I didn't want to do an apprenticeship. I didn't, and it wasn't resonating, right? And I was like, I want to read this book of Druidry that I have sitting here in my office it has sat here since I got certified as a Reiki master, right? Years and years ago. And she's the one who recommended it to me. And for some reason, I donate books all the time. And I always bring them to Goodwill, or like, I don't know if you guys have like little library houses, like if outside your church and your community, there's like a little house that you can put a book in. I would bring like books I don't use or don't read to those things. And for some reason, I've had this book for years and I have not even opened it. And I was like, why can I not donate you? Like, why can I not get rid of you? And I think I'm just finally at the point where it's time for me to explore that on my path, because I've been very into tarot, energy work, chakras, and mudras, meditation, and moving into things that are more earthly, more environmentalism kind of wheelhouse, paganism. But these are all labels like paganism. People hear pagan and they're like, oh my God, it's a witch hunt. I'm like, oh my God, I just want to hug a tree, man. I just want to mush up some herbs and make something that's good for my body. The Druids, people are like, oh my God, a Druid, they would sacrifice people and have their blood on rocks. And I'm like, yeah, well, they also really appreciated the planet and they were very, very healthy. And they were really connected to source and their authentic self because they moved through a very grounded energy. It's just like labels, labels, labels. That's actually kind of funny. I think that as long as you vibe with someone's energy and they provide the guidance you're looking for, then no need to get a certificate. A lot of people are born with these types of abilities. That's the thing. So, I think everybody's capable of I think every single human being on this planet could do exactly what I do exactly what some of you do. If you have gifts, if you're claircognizant, or if you just have these, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like any of the clairs, like seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, knowing, touching, blah, 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 right? All the senses, all that, right? Anybody can have it. And I believe that because in every state of consciousness, the more you open yourself up to a higher state. So let's say this is your baseline. You get to hear, oh, I'm starting to see things in my meditations. Oh, I'm starting to hear things in my meditations. Oh, I'm starting to just have this knowing. Oh, I'm getting sense. Oh, I'm getting tastes, right? It's a different state of consciousness, right? It's a different level. It's a different dimension you're expanding your mind to. Because when you're going to sleep at night, you're just all floating around in whatever dimension you want to float around in. And so I know for me, I didn't have any of this crap going on in my life until I damaged my brain, and I wasn't in my body at all. I was floating around somewhere because my brain was too damaged and my body was too damaged to hold myself in the physical. And so I was just floating up here and I was just seeing the craziest shit in my room. I was like, are these meds making me hallucinate? What the fuck is this? Oh, it's just a muscle relaxer. But is it making me, I was like, really losing my mind. And it wasn't the muscle relaxers because I stopped them. I did a trial run for myself. And I was like, I'd rather be in pain and know that I'm just losing my mind than think that I'm on this medicine that's making me lose my shit. And it turns out I was just losing my mind. And here we are. It's great. But that was when I was like, wait, there's things that are things outside of the things that we experience in this thing called life. So I think that everybody has that point where they're like jolted by the universe and they're awakening, right? That was my awakening. Like, hey, brain damage, you're blind, you're deaf, you can't walk, you're stuck sitting here for 8 months, spending some time with these other dimensions. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I wouldn't change it for the world, though. I can't even say it was one of the hardest times of my life, honestly. I really can't. I think this last year has been harder than that. Like, this last year has been a bigger integration of my ego than being freaking paralyzed and losing my sight and my hearing. Because sometimes you want to just not see or hear anybody. You're just like, can I not deal with you right now? That might sound bad, or it might just be me being honest, because at times we all get like overly stimulated. Like, it's not wrong to want time alone. It's not. What else, guys? What else you got? Anything? Yeah. Any questions? Anything? So I'll probably hop off here. I'll probably go chill out for a little before my Patreon monthly. And if you'd like to be part of our Patreon family, join on the 1st. Then you won't get charged today and then on the 1st again, right? That's just kind of silly, pointless, and a waste of your money. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right? But yeah. Okay. Well, I love you guys, and I will see you next time.